So we're almost a quarter of the way through the 2024 NBA season, and we had a ton of moves that went down in the offseason, as well as a massive trade that went down in week 1. So in this video, we're going to go through all the major moves that happened in the offseason and that move that went down in week 1, and we're going to put a grade on it on how it looks so far, and is it making an immediate impact to this team that maybe gave up a lot of assets or gave up a lot of money in free agency, and are we seeing those immediate results, or is it taking some time? So if you guys do enjoy the videos, I'd appreciate you dropping a thumbs up. Let's see if we can get 1,000 likes on the video, and I'd appreciate it if you subscribed as well, because I'm dropping all NBA content all season long. All right, so let's start off with the big one here, the one that happened in week 1 of the season for the LA Clippers. They went out and they acquired James Harden. They ended up giving Marcus Morris, Robert Covington, Nick Batum, KJ Martin, and 2 first-round picks in exchange for the 10-time All-Star. And Harden has really not worked out on the Clippers so far. We're seeing some massive issues when it comes to spacing and just offensive momentum and rhythm with Harden in the half-court set for this team. They just lost to the Nuggets last night, and they are now 0-5 with James Harden on the team. Yeah, they have yet to win after acquiring the 10-time All-Star and the 2018 MVP winner. And Kawhi, Paul George, Russ, and Harden have played in all of those 5 games that they lost. Like I said, it's just really not working out with their half-court set with all of them on the floor at once. In my opinion, I do think that they need to drop Russell Westbrook out of the starting lineup. Even though he got off to a good start, it's just not working out with him and Harden. You just gave up so much for Harden, so you got to move Russ to the bench, maybe insert Norman Powell into the starting 5, let Russ run that second unit, because so far, I got to give this an F. They have yet to win, so I really couldn't give this any higher of a grade. All right, so let's talk about the other side of this deal, the Philadelphia 76ers moving on from James Harden. I do want to look at both sides of these trades that happened, and for Philly, I got to give this an A+ so far. The Sixers were 6-0 till last night after losing to the Pacers after the Harden deal. So they are 6-1 after moving on, arguably their second best player. So I gotta, give this an A for them. Tyrese Maxey has looked like a bona fide all-star and a potential all-NBA caliber guard this season. He's fully breaking out. He was my most improved pick, so I'm really happy to see this from him. He's averaging 28.5 points, 5 rebounds, and 7 assists, shooting 49% from the field and 42% from 3 on the year. And that's all without James Harden, because Harden did not play a single game for Philadelphia this season. And there was the unfortunate scary injury to Kelly Oubre, but guys like D'Anthony Melton have been stepping up as of late. Tobias Harris has been very good so far this season. And the Sixers just acquired a nice young player in KJ Martin and multiple first-round picks in this Harden deal that they can look out and maybe go out and acquire a potential Zach LaVine or Pascal Siakam or somebody like that at the 2024 deadline in February if they're looking to make a win-now championship move, because this Sixers team can definitely win a championship. Embiid isn't getting any older. Maxey's turning into a star. I definitely see them going out and making some type of big move in February. All right, next up, we have the Phoenix Suns trading for Bradley Beal. Beal has only played in 3 games so far, so I'm going to give it a neutral grade of a C. Tonight on November 15th, we're supposed to see Devin Booker, Kevin Durant, and Bradley Beal all play on the floor together for the first time this season. Beal was obviously nursing that back injury to start off the year. In those 3 games that he has played, he's averaged 17 points, 5 rebounds, just under 4 assists a night, but on pretty poor efficiency at 39% from the field, 33% from 3, and 68% from the line. It has not been the most ideal start for Bradley Beal and the Phoenix Suns, but like I said, he was nursing that back injury. I do plan on him getting much better as the season goes along, and I'm really excited to watch him, Booker, and KD all on the floor together for the first time, because this trade really didn't matter what's going to happen in November, December, January. It's really what's going to happen in May and June. So we'll talk about the Washington Wizards side of this, and that's them finally trading Bradley Beal. Obviously, there was a player in between that they ended up getting and then flipping. We'll talk about that player next, but yeah, they ended up getting the big piece in Jordan Poole in return for this trade from the Golden State Warriors, and honestly, I'm giving this a D so far. So I applaud of Washington for finally moving on from Bradley Beal, because they definitely should have. But honestly, they did it 3 years too late. They should have did it before he signed that extension in 2020, where they could have gotten multiple first-round picks, possibly multiple pick swaps, and some young players as well. The ultimate trade package for Beal. But they waited way too long. All they got for it was basically a round 1 exit as an 8th seed to the 76ers in 2021 in 5 games. And Jordan Poole has been off to an abysmal start for them. And it's funny because the Wizards should have went into tank mode and rebuild mode for the Wemby draft. Why do this all of a sudden after Victor Wembanyama gets drafted in the NBA? Because as much as I like some of these prospects in this upcoming draft, like Ron Holland, Montes Buzelis, Isaiah Collier, it's really no surefire superstar #1 generational prospect like Wemby was. And Jordan Poole is off to an abysmal start for the Wizards this season, averaging 16 points, 2 rebounds, and 3 assists, shooting 41% from the field, 30% 40% from 3, and it just seems like every other night when the Wizards play, there's a video that surfaces of Jordan Poole either not caring, not trying, not listening in a coach's huddle, or just trying to throw a alley-oop off the backboard when they're down by 30. So yeah, I don't think Washington really made the right move in getting Jordan Poole after all of this. But hey, he is a tank commander. He's the new campaign. So yeah, the middleman in this kind of trade was the Golden State Warriors. They basically sent Jordan Poole to the Washington Wizards after the Wizards got Chris Paul in the Bradley Beal trade. So yeah, the Golden State Warriors getting Chris Paul. I'm giving this a B so far. So if Chris Paul's efficiency wasn't so bad, I definitely would have bumped this up to an A because he is shooting 37% from the field and 20% from 3. Like, those are abysmal numbers. But he is averaging 9 points and 4 rebounds a night, as well as 7 assists, and he's been a nice floor general off the bench for them because it seems like he's going to be a bench player for sure. What's really impressive is his assist to turnover ratio. He has 16 turnovers on the year to 84 assists. That's so much more winning basketball that you're going to get out of Chris Paul than you would have with Jordan Poole. And after seeing how Jordan Poole is performing in Washington, it looks like that Golden State made the right decision, and they're going to save a little bit of money in the long term as well due to Poole's long-term contract. So yeah, Chris Paul has been nice for them so far. I would like to see that efficiency up, but like the Bradley Beal to the Suns move, this deal doesn't really matter as much in November or December. It's more about May and June. The next move we have here is the Utah Jazz trading for John Collins in the offseason. This was definitely an under the radar move compared to the much bigger deals that went down. So if you don't remember who was involved in this trade, I really don't blame you. It was John Collins, the sole piece in this deal, going to Utah from Atlanta in exchange for Rudy Gay and a 2026 second round pick. That was basically a Memphis second round pick from the Mike Conley trade from years ago. And for Utah, I'm going to give this a B grade. I think this has been a fine trade for them. I actually hate the John Collins contract. I'm not sure if I would have made this move. That's why I was kind of surprised from Danny Ainge doing this, where he's getting paid $25 million this year, $26 million next year, and then $26.5 million in 2026 with a player option that he's most likely going to opt into. But Collins has looked solid offensively for the Jazz this year. 15 points, 8 rebounds. He's shooting north of 50% from the field and north of 40% from 3, which has been great to see because he hasn't really been a good 3-point shooter since 2022. And that was just a part of his game that made me fall in love with him in the 2020 season where he really broke out in year 3 for the Hawks. So yeah, I'm going to give this a B. I don't like the contract long term. I just wonder how he's going to fit defensively with Lauri Markkanen and Walker Kessler all on the floor at the same time because you're going to definitely sacrifice some things on the offensive end and then some things on the defensive end as well. But yeah, I think this trade could be a lot worse so far. So shout out to Utah. As for Atlanta, I'm going to give this an A- because one, you get off of the John Collins contract, and I know you didn't get any major piece in return, but what you did get was more playing time and a bigger opportunity for Jalen Johnson in year 3 because he is really breaking out this year. Jalen Johnson was the 20th overall pick in the 2021 draft, and like I said, he's having a career year in year 3, averaging 14.5 points, 8 rebounds, 2.5 assists a night, while also being super efficient as well. Just under 60% shooting overall from the field and just under 40% from 3. This dude can shoot the ball, he could score inside, he's crazy athletic, and I think he's a solid defender as well, and I think this is really why the Atlanta Hawks wanted to move on from John Collins to fully let Jalen Johnson get a nice role in this team. So I have basically one move from the NBA draft that was the biggest, and then one move from free agency that was also the biggest. The first move from the draft being, I mean, to no surprise, the San Antonio Spurs drafting Victor Wembanyama with the #1 overall pick, and I'm going to give this an A. The only reason I'm not going to give it an A+ is because, like I said, maybe it wasn't the most impressive move because they got lucky in the lottery, but Wemby does look like a franchise cornerstone and a generational prospect just 11 games into his career. I'm not going to fault him on the efficiency too much just because the Spurs team is not very good. I predicted them to be the worst team in the Western Conference this season, and while they have been a little bit better than that because you got the Memphis Grizzlies at 2-9, but yeah, the San Antonio Spurs are at 3-8, so they aren't much better. But yeah, Wemby's averaging 18.5 points, 9 rebounds, 2.5 assists, while he's also just 19 years old, which is incredibly impressive. He's also been insane on the defensive side of the floor as well, averaging a steal and 2.5 blocks a night. And yeah, did I mention he's only 19? As for the biggest free agency deal in the offseason, that was the Houston Rockets giving Fred VanVleet north of $40 million a year, and I'm going to give this grade a B so far. So this contract honestly isn't that bad either because the Rockets had a ton of cap space. It's $40 million this year, $42 million next year, and then $44 million in 2026, so it's not like a super long deal. VanVleet's averaging 17 points, 3 rebounds, and 8 assists on the year, which is nice. The field goal percentage has basically been what Fred VanVleet has done over the last couple of years, 38%. He's shooting 37 from 3 and 87 from the line, but yeah, going back to the field goal percentage, 38% this year, like I said, but he shot 39% last year, 40% in 2022, 38% in 2021. His career highs in 2018 at 42% when he just took 7 shots a night. So this is pretty much what we expected out of Fred VanVleet. But he's a guy with championship experience. He's a solid defender, and and the Houston Rockets look night and day compared to last season. You can also give props to Ime Udoka, the new coach, and Dylan Brooks, who was also maybe even a better free agency signing, because they have been just huge parts of this Rockets getting off to a 6-3 start. But yeah, Fred VanVleet has been solid for the Houston Rockets so far. So the next trade we have up is the Kristaps Porzingis trade to the Boston Celtics. This was a 3-team deal that basically sent KP to the Celtics, as well as some draft picks. Marcus Smart went to Memphis, and then Tyus Jones and some draft picks went to the Washington Wizards. For Boston, I'm going to give this an A. I think this has been a phenomenal trade. Kristaps has looked phenomenal as like the fourth or third scoring option for them, averaging 19.7 points this year, 6 rebounds, 2 assists, shooting 56.5% from the field, 41% from three for somebody that's 7'3" and 84% from the line. He's been such a good shooter this year for the Boston Celtics, being able to space that floor and still being a solid rim protector as well, still averaging over a block a night. So job well done to Boston in this trade. I've loved it for them so far. One part of this was Marcus Smart going to the Memphis Grizzlies. I'm going to give this a C. I do think that this trade also, like the Grizzlies had in mind, okay, maybe it's not going to matter too much in November, but when we need a perimeter stud defender at the guard position in the playoffs, Marcus Smart will be that guy. It's just they didn't really expect Ja Morant to get suspended 25 games and for this team to start off 2-9. Smart has been inefficient, which we have seen from him in the past, but I don't think his defense is slowed down by any means. It's just not off to the greatest start in Memphis this year, mainly because of their team record. Also, shout out to Washington getting Tyus Jones, who they can possibly flip at the deadline, and some draft capital in return for Kristaps Porzingis, who I thought they were just going to let opt out of his deal and get nothing in return from them. So that's a solid return there. Don't really have a lot of grade for it. All right, second to last trade here we have is the Jrue Holiday to the Boston Celtics trade. Obviously, you can probably guess who the final trade was. But yeah, this deal sent Jrue Holiday to the Boston Celtics for Malcolm Brogdon, Robert Williams, and 2 first-round picks. And one of those first-round picks being from the Golden State Warriors, and which the Celtics got from the Kristaps deal. So they only had to give up one of their first-round picks, and Jrue Holiday has looked great for them so far. I'm going to give it an A. I know he's not going to be the most offensive star on the floor at some times, where he's only averaging like 13 points on the year. He's giving them 7 rebounds, which is fantastic from a point guard, and 5.5 assists. But he's been efficient as well, 45% from the field, 36% from three, and 86% from the line. But why you acquired Jrue Holiday is the championship pedigree, the experience he had from the Bucks in 2021, and just how good he is on the defensive side of the floor. He is just so good at on-ball defense, and him and Derek White next to each other in that backcourt defensively is unstoppable at times, because they are just so smart with their switches, being able to respond to some gaps in the defense, and just overall being one of the smartest defenders on the floor at a time. This trade will really work out for Boston when they're winning games because of him in Met. All right, so lastly, we have the Damian Lillard trade. So let's first talk about this for the Milwaukee Bucks. This deal obviously did involve 3 teams, in which the Phoenix Suns got Grayson Allen, Yusuf Nurkic, Keon Johnson, and Nasir Little. The Portland Trail Blazers got Jrue Holiday, multiple first-round picks from the Bucks, and they also got DeAndre Ayton from the Suns. So we'll talk about the overall Lillard return package for the Blazers in a second. We'll talk about like Ayton and everything they got from Boston and the Holiday part of it. But for Milwaukee, I'm going to give this a C so far for Damian Lillard. He is off to an abysmal start this year through 8 games, averaging 23 points, 4 rebounds, and 5 assists a night. He's shooting 37% from the field, 27% from 3, and just has not looked good in the clutch basically outside the Philly or New York games. He was solid against Detroit as well, and he's just been inconsistent at times. It kind of reminds me of a similar start that he had in the 2022 season for Portland, where he was really efficient to start off the year and only played in 29 games. And the defense for Milwaukee also looks really bad at times, and that's coming from a team that's been really good defensively over the last 5 seasons. Like, this Milwaukee Bucks team is 24th in defense. Last year, this team finished 4th in defense, so you're seeing a massive drop off in acquiring Damian Lillard for Jrue Holiday. I do think it'll take some time for this offense and defense to get acclimated with each other, with Dame coming and playing with Giannis, and I'm very intrigued on how it's going to look over the next couple of months leading up to the 2024 playoffs. So lastly, for the Portland Trailblazers side of things, I'm giving this an A for them after getting all they got for Damian Lillard and the Jrue Holiday side of things as well. So they basically got 5 first-round picks, Robert Williams, Malcolm Brogdon, DeAndre Ayton, and Toumani Camara in exchange for Damian Lillard. I know Robert Williams is out for this whole year, which sucks, and I do think that they're going to be able to flip Malcolm Brogdon for something really good at the deadline, but I'm really glad that they finally moved Damian Lillard while his value was still really high. I'm kind of shocked that they got all of this in return from him just because of Dame's age, but we've seen guys like Shaedon Sharpe break out this season because of the absence of Damian Lillard, so he has more time to shine. I'm excited to see what Anthony Simons can do when he's back from injury and how Scoot Anderson looks over the progressing part of his rookie year. And they have so much draft capital. They have their first round pick in this upcoming draft, in which they could add another top prospect to. And yes, it's going to be pretty bleak for the Blazers over the next 2 to 3 years. And I know teams hate to trade their star player and enter a rebuild, but sometimes it's what you have to do. Just look at what Boston did in the early 2010s when they moved on from Paul Pierce and Kevin Garnett. They basically got Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown out of it, and they've been a powerhouse in the Eastern Conference conference since. So I hope you guys did enjoy that video. Let me know your grades on some of these major moves in the comments below. Also, if you want to talk about any moves that I didn't talk about, please let me know in the comments below. So if you guys did enjoy, I would appreciate you dropping a thumbs up. I love you guys, and I'll catch you on the next one. Peace.